echoes of distant stars. Julian Mercer stood at the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel, watching as the swirling azure atmosphere of Lumina parted to reveal a landscape that still took his breath away after 3 years of service. Floating, archipelagos drifted through luminescent clouds, connected by bridges of light that pulsed with the planet's biorhythms. "Ambassador, we're receiving the royal landing coordinates," his assistant Nasir called from the navigation console. "The Triad Court awaits your arrival." Julian adjusted his formal Earth Alliance uniform, touching the small ceremonial gift box in his pocket for reassurance. What had begun as a standard diplomatic assignment had evolved into something far more personal and complicated. The royal family of Lumina was unlike any governance structure humans had encountered in their expansion through the stars. 3 identical sisters, born simultaneously during a convergence of the planet's 3 moons, a phenomenon that occurred only once every 7 centuries. Each sister possessed a unique psychic gift that complemented the others, creating a perfect triumvirate of leadership. As the shuttle descended toward the Crystal Palace, Julian recalled his first meeting with the royal sisters. Crown Princess Thalia, with her ability to sense and manipulate emotions, had immediately recognized his genuine desire for peaceful relations. Princess Auriel, the middle sister, could create and dispel illusions, a power she often used to entertain foreign dignitaries with spectacular visions. And Princess Vendra, the youngest by mere moments, possessed telepathic abilities that made her both the most formidable royal guard and the most suspicious of outsiders. "The Triad welcomes Ambassador Julian Mercer," announced the court herald, as Julian stepped onto the shimmering platform. The massive hall was filled with Luminan nobility, their translucent skin glowing with subtle bioluminescence that shifted with their emotions. Princess Thalia stepped forward, her silver eyes reflecting the countless crystal formations that adorned the ceiling. "Ambassador, your return brings light to our court." Julian bowed deeply. "Your radiance, the honor remains mine." The formal words couldn't mask the warmth in his voice, a warmth that had grown with each diplomatic mission. Princess Auriel circled around him, her movements fluid and graceful. "Perhaps our honored guest would enjoy a vision of Earth's oceans? I've been practicing since your last visit." Small illusions of breaking waves materialized around her fingers. "Another time, sister," came the cooler voice of Princess Vendra, who stood slightly apart, her posture rigid. The ambassador carries important matters in his thoughts. Julian felt the subtle probe of her telepathy and respectfully reinforced the mental barriers he'd been taught to maintain. Vendra's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. That evening, during the welcome feast, Julian found himself seated beside Thalia. The gentle brush of her hand against his was hidden from the court by the elaborate table settings. "Tomorrow, we walk in the Whispering Gardens," she murmured. "There are matters we must discuss alone." From across the table, Auriel watched their interaction, her fingers tracing patterns in the condensation of her drinking vessel. Beside her, Vendra's gaze remained fixed on Julian, her thoughts carefully shielded even from her sisters. None of them noticed the ancient courtier in the shadows, whose many-faceted eyes had witnessed centuries of royal intrigue. His antennae quivered slightly as he observed the human ambassador. The Council of Elders had not approved of this growing connection, and measures would need to be taken before the human's true intentions were realized. As the 3 moons of Lumina aligned in the night sky, casting triple shadows across the palace floors, Julian retired to his quarters, unaware that his diplomatic mission was about to become far more dangerous than any interstellar conflict he had helped resolve. Whispers in the Crystal Gardens. The Whispering Gardens earned their name from the crystalline flora that swayed and chimed softly with every breeze, creating melodies that changed with the emotional atmosphere. As Julian followed Princess Thalia along the iridescent path, he noticed how the plants leaned toward her, responding to her empathic presence. "Your world still amazes me," Julian said, watching as a spiral-shaped flower unfurled at Thalia's approach. 3 years of diplomatic service, and I discover something new each visit." Thalia smiled, the markings along her temples glowing with a warm amber light, a sign of genuine affection among her people. "Perhaps that is why you were chosen, Julian. Others from Earth saw only resources and strategic advantages. You saw beauty." They reached a secluded alcove surrounded by tall crystal formations that refracted the light of Lumina's primary sun into rainbow patterns across the ground. Thalia gestured for Julian to sit beside her on a bench formed from living stone. "The Elder Council has been discussing the future of our alliance," she began, her voice taking on the formal tone of her royal position. "Many fear that deeper integration with Earth will dilute our culture. They urge caution." Julian nodded thoughtfully. "I understand their concerns. History on Earth is filled with similar fears that proved justified. Yet you proposed something unprecedented in your last communication." Her eyes searched his face. Julian took a deep breath. "The personal union I suggested wasn't in my official capacity, Thalia. It was from my heart." Unknown to the pair, Princess Auriel stood concealed behind a curved crystal formation, her power of illusion bending light around her. Her fingers trembled slightly as she listened. "I have observed your heart, Julian Mercer," Thalia said softly, placing her hand over his. "My gift allows me to sense the truth of feelings. Yours are genuine, but there are complexities you cannot understand. About our succession." "Then help me understand," Julian urged. "On Earth, diplomatic marriages have historical precedent." "This is not Earth," came a sharp voice as Princess Vendra stepped into the alcove, her sudden appearance startling both of them. "And my sister is not merely a princess. She is the future sovereign empath of Lumina." Thalia rose gracefully. "I did not request your presence, sister." "Yet my duty requires it," Vendra replied, her telepathic abilities subtly probing at Julian's mental shields. "The human harbors ambitions beyond personal affection." Julian stood, maintaining the diplomatic poise that had served him well in tenser negotiations. "Princess Vendra, I assure you my intentions are irrelevant," Vendra interrupted. "The triad balance must be maintained. One sister to sense truth, one to reveal illusions, one to guard thoughts. What place does an outsider have in this sacred arrangement?" From her hiding place, Auriel watched the confrontation with growing interest. Unlike Vendra, who saw only threat in Julian's proposal, Auriel saw opportunity. If Thalia were to break tradition with this union, the balance would indeed shift, perhaps in Auriel's favor. "The council has summoned us," Vendra announced. "Elder Zoth requests your presence, Thalia, alone." With visible reluctance, Thalia turned to Julian. "We will continue this discussion. Please enjoy the gardens until my return." After the royal sisters departed, Julian wandered deeper into the gardens, his thoughts troubled. He didn't notice the subtle shift in the crystal formations around him, nor the silent approach of what appeared to be Thalia returning unexpectedly. "They've gone to debate your fate," said the figure, her voice identical to Thalia's. "But I slipped away." Julian looked up, surprised. "That was quick." "Time moves differently in the council chambers," she replied, moving closer. "I wanted to tell you something important about how succession truly works among the triad." As she spoke, small details began to shift. The glow of her temple markings flickered between amber and a subtle green. Julian, focused on her words, failed to notice the telltale signs of Auriel's illusion taking Thalia's form. "There is a way we could be together," the false Thalia whispered, taking his hands. "An ancient provision in our laws, but it requires absolute secrecy. Not even my sisters can know yet." Elsewhere in the palace, the real Thalia stood before Elder Zoth and the council, unaware of her sister's deception. The ancient counselor's compound eyes reflected her image back at her as he spoke gravely. Your empathic bond with the human grows stronger, Princess Thalia. The council fears this threatens the triad balance. You must make a choice, your duty or your heart. In the gardens, Julian listened intently as Auriel, disguised as her sister, wove a complex tale of Luminan succession rites, a tale expertly crafted to lead him toward actions that would serve her own ambitions rather than Thalia's happiness. The crystal plants around them began to chime discordantly, responding to the disharmony of deception as three shadows stretched across the garden path, though only two figures stood within the alcove. Shadows of intention. Morning light filtered through the prismatic dome of Julian's guest quarters, casting rainbow patterns across his diplomatic notes. He reviewed what Thalia had told him the previous day about an ancient ritual called the Luminescence Covenant that could allow an outsider to join the royal lineage. According to her, this ritual had to be initiated during the approaching triple moon convergence, with the blessing of only one royal sister needed to begin the process. Soft chime announced a visitor. The door dissolved into particles of light, revealing Princess Vendra. Ambassador, she said, her voice cool and measured. I request your company for the morning meal. Julian maintained his diplomatic composure despite his surprise. Of the three sisters, Vendra had always been the most openly suspicious of his presence. I would be honored, your radiance. The royal dining chamber was empty save for them. Servants placed exotic fruits and crystal vessels of luminescent nectar before retreating silently. You wonder why I sought your company, Vendra stated, not a question but a reading of his surface thoughts. I assumed you wished to continue yesterday's discussion about my proposal to your sister. Vendra studied him, her silver eyes unblinking. In 300 cycles, no outsider has attempted what you propose. The last who tried nearly destroyed the triad balance. I meant no. Intentions matter little against consequences, she interrupted, placing a glowing blue fruit before him. Consume this. It will help protect your mind during today's festivities. The emotional resonance of our people during celebrations can overwhelm untrained human consciousness. Julian hesitated, his diplomatic instincts sensing a test. You distrust my offer? A hint of approval flickered across her features. Trust is built through understanding. I still have much to learn about Luminan customs. Vendra's temple markings pulsed briefly with blue light. Surprise, Julian had learned. Perhaps you are not as naive as you appear. She reclaimed the fruit. My sister believes she senses pure intentions in you. My gift tells me your thoughts are disciplined but genuine, yet something does not align. Across the palace, Princess Auriel stood before her reflection chamber, a room lined with crystals that multiplied her image infinitely. She practiced Thalia's exact expressions, perfecting her illusion. Sister, I've been searching for you, came Thalia's voice from the entrance. Auriel instantly dissolved her practice illusions. Just preparing for the festival, sister. Thalia glided into the chamber, her movements graceful but troubled. The council was difficult yesterday. They believe Julian's presence disrupts our balance. And what do you believe? Auriel asked carefully. That my heart and my duty need not be separate paths. Thalia's temple markings glowed with determined amber light. Julian understands our customs better than any human before him. Does he? Auriel circled her sister. What if his understanding is incomplete or guided by incorrect information? What do you mean? Only that hearts can be misled, sister, even yours. Auriel created a small illusion of Julian in her palm. Humans are adaptable and ambitious. Thalia's eyes narrowed. Your concern is noted, sister. Now I must find Julian. We have much to discuss before tonight's celebration. After Thalia departed, Auriel's placid expression transformed into one of calculation. Her plan was progressing perfectly. The false information she had given Julian while disguised as Thalia would lead him to perform actions at the festival that would appear presumptuous and disrespectful to Luminan tradition, driving a wedge between him and Thalia. Meanwhile, in a secluded chamber beneath the palace, Elder Zoth convened with the most ancient members of the council. "The human's presence threatens more than tradition," rasped Council Member Trespin, her ancient form supported by a hovering crystal throne. "The prophecy speaks of an outsider who arrives before the triple convergence, one who could either strengthen or shatter the triad." Elder Zoth's many-faceted eyes shifted. "The human must be tested. The ancient trials will reveal his true nature." "And if he fails?" asked another counselor. "Then the balance will be preserved," Zoth replied, "by any means necessary." That evening, as Lumina's 3 moons began their celestial approach toward alignment, the royal festival commenced. The palace crystal gardens were transformed, with floating lights and resonating music that seemed to emanate from the air itself. Julian entered wearing formal attire that combined Earth Alliance dignity with Luminan aesthetic elements, a gesture of cultural respect. His eyes searched for Thalia among the crowds, but instead found Auriel approaching. "The convergence celebration begins," she said with a smile that mirrored her sister's perfectly. "Are you prepared for what comes next?" "The Luminescence Covenant," Julian nodded, lowering his voice. "I've studied the information that Thalia shared with me." A flicker of satisfaction crossed Auriel's face. "Then you know what you must do when the 3 moons align." Across the garden, the real Thalia watched in confusion as Julian conversed intimately with who appeared to be herself. And from the shadows, Vendra observed them all, her telepathic senses detecting the dissonance of deception like a discordant note in the festival's harmonies. The stage was now set for a confrontation that would change the future of human-Luminan relations forever. Trial of the Ancient Stones. The festival reached its crescendo as Lumina's 3 moons, Azura, Selene, and Vox, climbed higher in the night sky, their celestial dance bringing them closer to perfect alignment. Throughout the Crystal Palace grounds, Luminans performed traditional convergence rituals, their skin glowing with intensifying bioluminescence that responded to the collective emotional energy. Julian moved purposefully through the celebration, mentally rehearsing the steps of the Luminescence Covenant, as described by Thalia, who he now realized must have been Auriel in disguise. Still, he pressed forward, determined to understand the sister's game before making his next move. "Ambassador Mercer," came a formal voice. Elder Zoth approached, his ancient form adorned with ceremonial crystals that amplified his authority. "The council requests your presence at the sacred stones." Julian's diplomatic training couldn't entirely mask his surprise. The sacred stones were mentioned in restricted sections of the cultural briefings, a ceremonial site typically forbidden to outsiders. "I would be honored, Elder." As they traversed a shimmering bridge that led away from the main palace, Julian noticed other Luminans watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. The bridge terminated at a floating island anchored by massive crystal formations arranged in a perfect triangle. In the center of the triangle stood the 3 royal sisters, each positioned at equidistant points, their formal attire pulsing with light that matched their respective moons. Thalia's confused expression when she saw Julian confirmed his suspicions about Auriel's deception. "Julian Mercer of Earth," intoned Elder Zoth, his voice carrying unnatural resonance. "You have expressed desire to form a union with Crown Princess Thalia, an action unprecedented in 7 centuries of Luminan history. The gathered luminans murmured in response, their collective emotion causing nearby crystals to chime softly. Such a union would impact the triad balance that governs our world, Zoth continued. Our ancient laws decree that any outsider seeking such a profound connection must first prove their worthiness through the trial of stones. Vendra stepped forward, her expression unreadable. The trial reveals truth beyond deception, Ambassador. Are you willing to submit yourself to this judgment? Julian met her gaze steadily. I am. Julian, Thalia began, concern evident in her voice. The trial is dangerous for those not born of Lumina. You don't have to. The candidate has agreed, interrupted Elder Zoth. The trial commences. The ground beneath Julian's feet became transparent, revealing a labyrinth of crystal tunnels illuminated by pulsing bioluminescent veins. He felt himself descending, the solid ground turning semi-permeable to allow his controlled fall into the complex below. Above, the three sisters watched his descent with varying expressions, Thalia with worry, Auriel with veiled anticipation, and Vendra with intense focus. This is unnecessary, Thalia argued. The council oversteps its authority. On the contrary, Elder Zoth replied. This human has been meddling in royal affairs, making claims about ancient rites that do not exist. Thalia turned sharply toward the elder. What claims? Your human spoke of initiating the Luminescence Covenant during tonight's convergence, Auriel interjected smoothly. A ritual that would circumvent traditional succession laws. There is no such covenant. Thalia's confusion was genuine, her empathic abilities sensing the deception at play. Her gaze shifted between her sisters, understanding dawning in her eyes. What have you done? Below in the labyrinth, Julian navigated crystal corridors that shifted and rearranged themselves. The walls occasionally became transparent, showing him glimpses of memories, some his own, others belonging to the royal sisters. He recognized the test for what it was, a psychic probe designed to reveal his true intentions. A memory crystallized around him, his first meeting with Thalia III, years ago, his genuine awe at Luminan culture. Another shift revealed his private communications with Earth Alliance leadership, where he had advocated passionately for deeper cultural exchange rather than mere resource treaties. The labyrinth led him to a chamber containing 3 stone pedestals, each holding a crystal that pulsed with the color of one royal sister's energy signature. As Julian approached, each crystal projected a different possible future. The first showed him with Thalia, bringing unprecedented cooperation between their worlds, but with Auriel and Vendra diminished in status. The second revealed him aligned, with Auriel, using illusions to establish Earth's dominance over Luminan resources while appearing benevolent. The third displayed him rejected from Lumina entirely, with the sisters' unified rule continuing unchanged, but isolated from Earth's influence. Choose, came the unified voices of the council from the crystals themselves. Your true desire cannot be hidden here. Julian studied each projection carefully, then stepped back from the pedestals. These are false choices, he stated firmly. Each assumes I seek personal gain or planetary advantage. He turned in a circle, addressing the unseen observers. My proposal to Princess Thalia was personal, not political. I sought permission through proper diplomatic channels because I respect your traditions, not because I wish to exploit them. Above ground, the council members exchanged glances as Julian's words were projected through crystal receivers. He refuses the test, one elder noted. No, Vendra corrected, her telepathic senses extended fully. He rejects its premise. There is integrity in his mind that I did not anticipate. Auriel shifted uncomfortably as her deception became increasingly apparent. The crystalline structures around them began resonating discordantly, reflecting the disharmony among the royal sisters. Bring him back, Thalia commanded, her empathic authority flowing through her voice. This trial was built on falsehood from the beginning. In the chamber below, the crystals surrounding Julian began to pulse rhythmically. The three projected futures dissolved, replaced by a single image. The three sisters standing together in balance, with Earth and Lumina as equal allies, not through his marriage to any sister, but through genuine understanding. As the three moons reached perfect alignment in the sky above, their combined light penetrated through the palace crystals, illuminating the labyrinth with intense radiance. The ground beneath Julian became permeable once more, gently returning him to the sacred stones, where the royal sisters and council awaited. The trial had ended, but the true test of balance between the sisters and their worlds was just beginning. Convergence of three moons. The sacred stone's platform hovered in perfect stillness as Julian emerged from the labyrinth. Above, the three moons of Lumina reached perfect alignment, bathing everything in silver-blue radiance that intensified the natural bioluminescence of the assembled luminins. The air itself seemed charged with potential energy. Julian stood at the center of the triangular formation, his gaze moving between the three royal sisters. Despite their identical physical features, he could now clearly see the profound differences in their essence, differences that went beyond their psychic gifts. "The trial reveals truth," Elder Zoth announced, his ancient voice carrying across the platform. "Speak what you have learned, Earth Ambassador." Before Julian could respond, Thalia stepped forward, her empathic aura pulsing with unusual intensity. "The trial was compromised from its inception, Elder. Deception preceded truth." She turned toward Auriel, who maintained her composed facade, even as the crystals around her resonated with disharmony. "You impersonated me to mislead Julian. You invented a false ritual to sabotage any possibility of union between us." Auriel's temple markings flashed defensively. "I acted to protect the triad balance, sister. His presence threatens our unity." "Does it?" Vendra interjected, surprising everyone. The normally suspicious sister moved to stand equidistant from both her siblings. "My telepathic senses detected genuine confusion in the human's mind during the trial. He believed he was following your wishes, Thalia, yet pursued them with integrity even when faced with easier paths." The council members murmured among themselves as Julian finally spoke. "On Earth, we have a saying. The truth has three faces: yours, mine, and what actually happened." His voice was steady despite the cosmic energies swirling around them. "I came to Lumina as a diplomat and remained as someone who grew to love not just Princess Thalia, but the beauty and wisdom of your entire culture." He turned to Auriel. "Your deception revealed something important: how deeply Luminans fear the disruption of balance. This fear is valid, given your history." Then to Vendra, "Your suspicion protected your sisters and your world. This protective instinct is something our peoples share." Finally, to Thalia, "And your empathy allowed you to sense my genuine intentions, even when others doubted." The triple convergence reached its zenith overhead. Light from the three perfectly aligned moons condensed into a singular beam that struck the center crystal of the sacred stones. The crystal fragmented into countless shimmering particles that swirled around the gathering before redistributing themselves to form a holographic representation of Lumina's history. Elder Zoth stepped into the light, his ancient form seeming to merge with the historical images. The convergence brings revelation. 7 centuries ago, another outsider stood among us. Their ambition shattered the previous triad, leading to a century of disharmony. The crystalline images shifted, showing the current royal sisters as infants, born during the previous convergence. Fear of repeating history is powerful, but fear must not govern wisdom. The eldest council member, Trespin, moved her hovering crystal throne forward. The trial has served its purpose, but not as we intended. Instead of testing the human, it has tested the triad itself. The holographic history dissolved, replaced by the representation of the three royal sisters connected by threads of light, with a fourth thread extending toward Julian. Balance is not static, Trespin continued, her ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries. True balance adapts and evolves, or it becomes stagnation. Oriel stepped forward, her illusion powers dropping completely to reveal her genuine remorse. I acted from fear and perhaps envy. I believed your connection threatened my place in the triad, sister. She extended her hand toward Thalia. I see now that strength can come from new connections, not just ancient traditions. Vendra joined them, completing their traditional triangular formation. The human's mind showed me something unexpected during the trial. His vision of our worlds included all three of us in balance, not diminished by his presence but strengthened by the bridge he represents. As the three sisters joined hands, the energy of the triple convergence intensified. The crystals throughout the sacred stones began resonating in perfect harmony, creating a melody that hadn't been heard on Lumina in centuries. The triad speaks. With one voice, the sisters announced simultaneously, their temple markings glowing with synchronized patterns. We propose a new covenant, not the false luminescence covenant, but a true alliance of worlds. Julian stepped forward as invited. By their unified gesture, Earth would be honored by such an alliance. Elder Zoth raised his many-jointed arms. The convergence witnesses this new beginning. Ambassador Julian Mercer will serve as the first Harmony Keeper, a position that honors his unique connection to Crown Princess Thalia while respecting the triad balance. The formal title solved the diplomatic challenge elegantly. Julian would become an official bridge between worlds, with the personal relationship between him and Thalia acknowledged, without disrupting Luminan succession traditions. As the ceremony concluded, the three moons began their slow separation in the night sky. The gathered Luminans dispersed gradually, leaving the royal sisters and Julian alone at the sacred stones. Your deception nearly worked, Julian said to Oriel without rancor. I believed every word. Oriel's temple markings flickered with embarrassed light. My gift for illusion extends beyond the visual, but I underestimated your adaptability and my sister's connection to you. And I underestimated the depth of human commitment, Vendra acknowledged. Your minds are chaotic compared to ours, yet yours maintained integrity even when faced with temptation. Thalia moved to Julian's side, their hands finding each other naturally. The Harmony Keeper role is more than ceremonial, Julian. It will require years of learning our deepest traditions. Years I look forward to, he replied, gazing out at the floating islands of Lumina glowing beneath the separating moons. Later that night, in the privacy of the Crystal Gardens, Thalia and Julian walked among the resonating plants that now chimed, with perfect harmony in their presence. Your sister's concerns weren't entirely misplaced, Julian admitted. Unions between different worlds rarely come without complications. Thalia's empathic senses embraced him like a physical touch. The trial revealed something important, that true balance isn't threatened by change, but strengthened by it, just as our three moons exert different gravitational pulls yet maintain Lumina's orbit. Above them, the three moons continued their celestial dance, no longer perfectly aligned but still connected in cosmic harmony. Similarly, the three royal sisters had found a new equilibrium, one that made room for connection beyond their world while honoring the traditions that defined them. And as Julian and Thalia sealed their new understanding with an embrace that bridged human and Luminon custom, the crystal flora around them bloomed with unprecedented light, reflecting possibilities that neither world had imagined before their paths converged beneath the three moons of Lumina.